SSF2's new update is right around the corner. I mean, supposedly, you know, that's still not exactly clear yet. But one thing that is clear is that for the most part, they're done showing us new things. Whether it's from videos, Screenshot Saturday, or the blogs, it's all either old news or nothing new at all. This sounds bad on paper, but really it's them keeping the last couple things a secret until they A, drop it all at once and let us find out for ourselves, or B, make a video or videos leading up to the release. Kinda like what they did with the 1.2 content, and I'd bet my life that it's gonna be through some reveals. But with everything wrapping up, let's discuss everything we know, including some predictions on my end. Also, to make it a bit more digestible, we'll be starting from the least hype and work our way up to the most. But before we begin, consider dropping a sub if you want to see more from me in the future. That's including content covering the new update, so, you know, just letting you know. We're coming up on the big 5K, and we might have made it by the time this video comes out, not sure. But I know we can go even further than that too. We can do it, guys. But with that out the way, let's get started. First up is the quality of life updates. Even though this is at the bottom of the list, I just want to let you know that it's all hype, just different levels of hype, you know? Down here is definitely going to be a lot of very small things, but because they're so small, they're going to be sprinkled basically all over the place. We've already seen a good amount of visual stuff in game, like the grab effects, sword smash attacks, and the fire on Kirby's dash attack, just to name a few. As far as something like the HUD or the menus, I kind of doubt they're going to change that. They already feel iconic, but I'm not saying it's impossible. However, we will for sure see resprited versions of the character's select screen. They always do it for them, and it'll be cool. It all sounds small, but it's gonna be everywhere, and this kind of polish is what makes SSF2 stand out so much. Alright, next up we got the final palettes that we're gonna see for every character completely. Funny to think it's been nearly 6 years since the original announcement, and I'm definitely expecting all of them to be done, or else we'll have some pretty clear evidence of something. But before we talk about that, what characters don't have their color palettes right now? The only characters currently without a palette right now are DK, Sheik, Zelda, Marth, Fox, Falco, Meta Knight, and Goku. And 5 out of the 8 characters are already confirmed to be getting one, and they all have been shown off already, which leaves us with DK, Fox, and Marth. Whether or not they get their palettes tells us a lot about potential resprites. If DK, Marth, or Fox don't have their palettes when it drops, that's just telling us straight up that they could be waiting for a resprite to give them colors. Maybe not an exact tell, but it would be beyond weird to randomly have 3 characters with no colors while everyone else does. Before it was reasonable because there were still 8 characters, which is a pretty sizable number. But 3? I mean, at that point, you might as well get them all done, right? We'll talk about resprites later in the video, but there's a decent chance one of these guys gets one. Regardless, colors are hype. I really hate some of the old filtered colors, so I'll be hoping everyone gets something. Now we got the mini resprites, I'll call them. That'll definitely be adding more liveliness to the characters. It's not full-blown resprites, nor are they changing moves completely. It's mostly just giving characters new idle animations, or making an attack look cleaner or something like that. These have been shown everywhere, and even the devs themselves don't make a huge deal of them. A lot of the time they're mostly leaving them in the back of more important announcements just to make you go, oh wow, that's pretty neat. Not a huge thing, but again, I love the polish that I didn't even know I needed. I didn't even notice that Falcon didn't have his backflip like in the original titles until they dropped the post showing it. Yeah, I didn't notice, but I'm all here for it. Also, Mario throwing here is pretty interesting, and I wonder if more moves are gonna distort characters like this. And everything with Sheik and Zelda I'm just in love with. It's just a mystery box of potential changes, and I'm excited to see how it's gonna play out. For this, I'll group items and stages together. They've pretty much shown it all with these 2 dev blogs that I'll link in the description. And yeah, they look phenomenal, of course. There's probably some that are still not shown, and that's saying something with how much they've already dropped casually. We've seen new items, redesigns for existing stages, new stages, pretty much everything you could ask for. Obviously, it is great for casual players, but us competitive players are also looking at a chance for a new competitive stage, or revamping some of the stages to make them competitively viable, like Polygon Zone or Dracula's Castle. As far as new stuff goes, I don't know about items, but A new stage is highly likely if we end up getting a new character. We'll get to the likelihood of that later, but even with what has been shown, there's a good chance of more stuff, which is pretty sick. For sure, there's some hype potential here, and I don't know if it's gonna reach everyone, but for a lot of people, these will be awesome. Also, one more funny thing I noticed, in the item dev blog, we can see some of the new food that's been added. But Steven posted these items like a long time ago on his Twitter, which I find hilarious. I even used it in my April Fool's video saying it's real, and you know, I guess it was a leak. Who knows what else on his page could be real? One of the more desperately needed things, we got balance changes. These are basically all but guaranteed. And you may think this is only something competitive players will care about, but even if you're casual and only somewhat pay attention, it's still great news. Balance adds a new life to the game that gets developed and changes over the years. Basically, balance gives us something to talk about while the devs are working on something else. And oh boy, we know we're in desperate need of that. In general, everyone loves talking about character strengths and weaknesses, and balance flips everything on its head. And now we'll have 5 more years to talk about why Kirby still sucks. Alright, next up is the reworks. From this point on, I think everything is pretty clearly hype, or at least very potentially hype. So reworks, I don't mean resprites, I mean completely new moves, even if it's just 1 or 2 new things. Technically that does mean that they'll have new sprites for those new moves, but you know what I mean. This can range a lot, which is why I don't have it higher. Someone like Naruto, for example, doesn't have too much changed. From what we can see at least, he's got the mini resprite basically all over his kit, and he has his new move in F Smash. All that's pretty cool, but in the other hand we have Tails, which has multiple new moves that are pretty clearly completely changing how this character plays. I honestly don't think we're gonna get many more cases like Tails this patch, just because I think they have other more important things to touch. But for sure, we're gonna have at least a couple of changes like Naruto's, where maybe 1 or 2 moves are different. Even if they're not completely different moves, respriting them to where they have a different hitbox or speed would be pretty nice. It would definitely spice up these characters without having to do a whole resprite for them. And if there really are a lot of these, it's a whole new thing to look forward to in future updates, even beyond this one. Next up, we got new modes. This one's pretty much entirely speculation because we have absolutely no information on it. And this is probably the least confident I feel about something dropping that we don't have any information on. Things higher on the list have way more of a chance of getting announced because they're just more important than making a new game mode, which basically nobody's asking for right now. There is no chance we get anything like story mode. Drop the idea. It's too much work, and I don't think there's a chance that we'll ever get it, since this game's just a passion project. But a more likely thing we could get is a small little fun mode like sandbag badminton, or something akin to events where you have to complete stuff. I don't know. I haven't really thought about a casual mode, and I don't think it's very likely anyway. However, instead of getting a fun mode, I could totally see us getting a more useful mode, such as revamping the training mode or giving a spectator mode for tournaments. These would just be more beneficial and long lasting for the community, so I'd expect that if anything. And we've already had mods that improved training options and gave us a spectator mode, so yeah, it's possible, just unlikely in my mind. Okay, an obvious one, we got resprites. Even though new moves and real changes to kits impact the game more, in everyone's heart we know we love a good resprite. It breathes life into a character even more than what new moves could do. We already know MK has one, it's been shown off completely too. Not like a certain character that we'll talk about in a bit, but yes, it looks amazing. And we are not asking for another one anytime soon. But they're always full of surprises, and it's not impossible for one more to drop. Don't expect it, but for fun, who would it be? So we already know some of the sprites are quite old and could use a touch-up. We also talked about those characters without a palette, but I wanted to be a little bit more conclusive than just naming a couple of things. So me being crazy, I decided to look through every single post the devs have made since they started dropping stuff regarding the next update, just to see if there was something we missed. So that's the videos, the screenshot Saturdays, the dev blogs, and even the blue sky stuff. So how could I find something that's very clearly not there? That's exactly it. What is not there? Or should I say, who is not there? What characters have they been hiding from us for multiple years at this point? This was mostly a for fun thing. I didn't think it was gonna lead anywhere. They could obviously just decide to throw an old sprite in, but they did say once that the patch was stuck in limbo due to some sort of coding issue. which who knows, maybe they couldn't port back an old sprite without having to do a lot of work. But obviously it's not like they have to show every single character. And over these years, why would they leave a clue for an upcoming resprite? Surely they wouldn't do that, right? Well, after looking at everything, there is one character who has not been shown at all. Not once in anything recent or old. And that character is Lloyd. A character that's very obviously deserving of a resprite. He's got sprites from an old Game Boy game, but he's also one of the characters with a palette already. So I'm not exactly sure how likely it is. It might just be a giant coincidence. Regardless, Lloyd has a real decent chance of getting a resprite. Maybe not this upcoming patch, but when they decide to do one next, maybe he's gonna be the pick. I'm sure they don't want to keep Lloyd's ripped sprites very much, so yeah. Definitely a possibility, and I hope my conspiracy is correct. And now the big hitters, a character overhaul, aka Goku. They're absolutely not doing another one of these where they're not just respriting, but revamping the moves as well. So yeah, it's just a rework plus a resprite, but you know, it's cool. But I have this so high because it's basically a completely new character. And man, it's Goku, how could I not be hyped? Also, before we get into it, technically this is not confirmed yet, but just using my brain, we can obviously see that it's a resprite. We've seen it in motion and in screenshots, so yeah, that's confirmed. But the revamp, we know he's got a couple of new moves that have been shown off, but only in screenshots. Nothing new has been shown in video form yet. It's just odd that they have this insanely hyped character that does numbers on Twitter, but they've shown us so little. You're telling me that Tails is getting a dev blog, but Goku isn't? They really think they could trick us into thinking that it's not that big, but they're definitely hiding something from us. And they obviously know how popular Goku mods are, so they're gonna make them cool. It's just gonna happen. Goku's basically unused in the game right now since he's kinda trash and he doesn't even have palettes, so if they make him good, he's really gonna feel like a brand new character. And again, he's Goku. I'm just beyond hype. How could I not be? He'll probably be shown off a lot more in the final announcement video or even the release video itself. I wouldn't be surprised. I got high hopes for Goku and I'm excited to use him. And last but not least, a new character. This is the announcement that builds up hype for the game. Not even just this game, every game. And 4 years deep into this patch, we all know something's coming. Dropping this patch with all this work put into it for nobody to come back because there's no new hype character would be throwing on their end. They pretty much have to at this point. It's not like Ganon releasing being a shock. We know it's happening, but that leaves more time for speculation for who that character might be. And you're not gonna find any of that speculation here. There's no way of guessing who's it gonna be. But one thing we do know is that there's two paths they could go down. Either bring back a veteran from official Smash titles, or take a completely new character from something else. No anime characters, by the way. They've already said that they're done with that. But as far as either goes, I think either would work. With the veteran, there's a better chance that they'll be well designed just because they have proof of it working in the past and they can innovate a little with it like Pichu or Ganon. While in the other hand, a completely new character would just be more hype. But the chances of the design being suspect is a lot higher. I mean, just look at Rayman. So I'm fine with anything. All we need is a character to get added with this update. Maybe the most important thing on the list, period. As far as my guesses go, if it's a returning character, I just want one of the villains to come back so we can have a few more of them to round the game out a little bit more. And if it's a new character, I really want Quote from Cave Story. I think he'd fit pretty well. You guys can let me know what you want in the comments below. But yeah, that's everything we know and everything we can hope to see in the next update. It's been so long since the last one, we have no idea what they could have up their sleeve. But now all we can do is wait for the announcement and pray. Thank you guys for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and peace out.